Flipping it up and out. Bogut! Ariza's blocked by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get rogue.
Welcome to Rogue Bogues. This is the basketball podcast. Myself and Mike Procopio at Hoop Consultants. What a week it's been in basketball, Pro. We got a run sheet, probably as long as your toilet paper rolls, Pro.
Hey, my hot dog order at Portillo's. Yeah, sure. Why not? Let's
all the add-ons and condiments. It's been a busy week.
Without question. No, it's I can't wait to get into it. I can't wait to you tell me the stories about that night after that night after the championship. What you guys got into or got out of? What was for that?
Pretty tame. I'm 38, Pro. So how old am I? Yeah, I'm 38, turning 39. So those days are gone. You have one too many beers, and then it messes your whole week up once you start hitting your 40s, as you would know. Yeah. When you're 20, it's only a bad day. When you're in your 40s, it's a bad week.
Congrats on the championship, man.
I try to keep it pretty tame. Yeah, thank you. We'll get into that later. It's been a huge week for the organization, for the league, for everyone involved, which we'll touch on. But we'll get rolling with the NBA stuff and then get into our Australian stuff and more. A lot going on in Australia in the world of basketball. But let's get into our team of the weeks this week. I'm going to let you go first, Pro. Who do you have? Who's in form for you this week?
Bogues, I'm going to go with the New York Knicks. Winners of 3 straight. Thibodeau's got those guys going. They're dealing with, they dealt with some adversity as of late with some injuries and things. But I think the New York Knicks are my team for this week. Hey, look, man, they're playing hard. Brunson and, Randall, they're hard-nosed guys. They're old school. They play with some size. They get attitude with them. It's good. They won 3 straight. They had some impressive victories. I think that they're a good team. As far as like who they beat in the last 3, just let me get this. So at LA,
Denver, Portland,
at LA versus Denver at home, and at Portland. 3 in a row. I mean, they lost 3 before that, but they won 3 in a row. 3-0 this week. I think they're playing well. They play hard, man. They're a hard out. And they got their role players stepping up for them. They got Brunson. Quickly, Robinson's playing well. So, I go with them, Bogues. What are you thinking about the Knicks these days?
Yeah, I had them a couple of weeks ago. If you remember correctly, they went on that 9-game win streak, then lost 3. So essentially, they're 12-3 in their last 15, which is pretty impressive. And that East is just tough. The East is that top 5 in the East. They're 12-3 in their last 15, and they really haven't moved much when you look at the table, which is kind of crazy, right? Like, if you go on that kind of streak in the West, you're nipping at 1, right? Yeah. And New York's 42-30, and they're still 2.5 games behind Cleveland in 4, which is kind of amazing. So it just speaks to how deep the top of the Eastern Conference is this season, and I think probably more competitive conference than the West. Most people would argue when you look at records. But the Knicks have been great. This is what everyone kind of expected when Thibs took over, right? Like just the consistency. They don't ever beat themselves. At least this season they haven't. Maybe the Dallas game they did, but when Luka hit that miracle shot off the free throw. But generally, Thibs teams don't beat themselves, and that was something that they struggled with the first year or two under Thibs, which wasn't something that you could put on Thibs historically, right? But I've been huge on them. I think they're playing really good basketball. They've found some gems. Josh Hart, like I said 2 weeks ago, huge pickup for them. It seems like they're playing with energy and a bit of a burst, and they have that confidence. I think Julius Randle's come back after a really good year a couple of years ago. Then had a subpar year last season, according to his standards, has brought it back again, hit some game winners for him, and they seem to have a bit of that dog mentality where they're willing to stand there and jab and punch with you, and that's probably something the Knicks haven't had for 20-odd years. They had the those group of guys when I was playing that were all supposed to be half gangster, half NBA player. That's not toughness to me. They had those guys in the mid 2000s under Isaiah Thomas, but no wins. But this group actually seems like a dog eat dog kind of New York Knicks team, which has been good to see.
Yeah, they've got talent, and this is one of the only situations where coaching actually makes a huge difference. Mostly, I don't care who your coach is. If you don't have talent, you're not going to win. Most of these guys need a lot of talent to be really good, coaching wise, record wise. I think Thibs really gives them. He's the closest thing that basketball, in my opinion, has to Bill Belichick. Grumpy, prepared, watches 20 hours of film, all engaged in it. and I've known him for a while, and he's a hell of a coach. Now he wears you thin with lacing up and taping up for every practice, going hard. Really holds you accountable on the defensive end. Guy never fucking smiles. And he's all into it. And look, they're playing hard. I think Jalen Brunson's the perfect guy to lead that team because he's all about toughness and got a chip on his shoulder. Randall's got a chip on his shoulder. They got all these guys spread out. The Josh Hart thing saved their season, probably saved Tibbs' job, to be honest with you. And it's unbelievable that a guy who averages 9-8 or 10-8 could really do that to you. But I think the impact of having a guy that doesn't need the ball in his hands, plays hard defensively, brings it. I think it's been great, and it's good to see. And it's unbelievable, like you said, they go 12-3 in the East of all places and not make a big jump in the standings. But it's good to see them in the playoffs. It's always good, when the Knicks are in some type of contention for playoffs. It's a big market. You like to see it, and I think this is a good group. It's a fun group to watch.
Sure is. We'll see how they go in the playoffs. It's going to be tight. As of now, I think it's a coin flip between them and Cleveland in the playoff series. So, but if they happen to fall to that 6th, which I doubt because they're 2.5 ahead of that, then it's a different story. I think they're out in the first round because they're going to get Boston, Philly, or Milwaukee. All right, Philadelphia. They probably deserved it last week as well. But their winners 8 straight. They're playing very good basketball right now. James Harden still, I feel like he's coasting still to an extent in a good way, leading the league in assists. But just playing good basketball, kind of conserving energy to an extent, I think. But you look at, their last 3, Indiana, Charlotte, and Cleveland. They beat Washington and Portland before that. A couple of one-point games in there, so a bit of luck has bounced their way. Milwaukee, Indiana, and Minnesota, Portland in that 8-game win streak. Embiid's been a monster. He's obviously ran for the MVP. We know that he's, talked about it and he's in contention. Harden's playing solid. Their role players have been good. I still don't think they have enough to beat Milwaukee or Boston if both fully healthy or all fully healthy. I think they're still, PJ Tucker's great for him defensively, but he's almost a liability at the other end. The X factor for them, Maxi's a big X factor, but I think Tobias Harris is the X factor for them in a playoff series because he's going to be the guy that they dare to make shots when Harden and Embiid have it going in a playoff series. He's going to be that third wheel that's going to have to be very productive for him. So I like what they've done this season. I had them picked as kind of a smoky at the start of the season for a long odds championship favorite. I still think that they got a chance. They can take Boston, Milwaukee to 6-7, but I think over the course of a series, it will be a tough beat. And Embiid historically has not been season-like numbers in the playoffs. That's just he's just hasn't performed well in playoff series, and that's historically been his thing in playoffs. I'm not saying he goes to 10 points a game, but he goes from his numbers in the regular season, which this season's 30-plus points a game odd. His field goal percentages go significantly down, his assists go down, and he's going to need to have a regular season type individual performance every night for them in the playoff series for them to win. They can count on Harden a little bit of Maxey, but Embiid's the guy. So they're playing good basketball. It'll be interesting to see how they go, in another month's time.
Yeah, Bogues. I mean, they're just going to have to ugly it up in the playoffs. I mean, shit, they've been ugly in the playoffs, to be honest, already, but they have to be an ugly, 2-man game between Harden and Embiid. They have to be great, and everyone else has to sort of take, just make shots from the outside and then obviously guard people. I think it's good for Harden to sort of take it easy a little bit and coast and allow Maxey and Harris to really do well. I mean, Tucker really isn't that guy, so obviously, but, Tobias and Tyrese Maxey is, as far as guys who can score it. They could take a little bit of pressure and a little bit of mileage off of him, and he doesn't have to go as hard like that. Like you said, they're going to be, really keying in the playoffs on Harden and Embiid, try to stop those two guys the best they can. Guys like Harris and Maxey are really going to have to step up. And like you said, Harden, in the past really hasn't had great playoff series in a long time. He's going to have to, do that. But I think the pressure is going to be on Harris and Maxey, and then guys like Georges Niang, Shake Milton, D'Anthony Melton. They're going to really have to step their games up as far as shot makers and efficient players, especially if there's foul trouble and they got to play extended minutes in the playoffs. But yeah, they've been playing well, 8 in a row. That's nothing to shake a stick at, man. That's pretty tough. So yeah, good for them.
Yeah, and it's going to come down to the benches for them. I think Milwaukee and Boston, their benches are elite. Some real good bench players, and I just don't think Philly has that depth over the course of a series. If some injuries or luck come their way, maybe, but will be interesting to watch. As I said earlier, my week of the week is the Golden State Warriors. They just look bad, man. I mean, I follow them obviously because I've got a lot of ex-teammates on there and a special place in my heart, winning a championship there and whatnot. Don't need to bore everyone with that story again, but they just don't look good. They just look like, I don't know, they look like they're coasting through to stay healthy for the playoffs, but they might be in a late playing game if they're not careful the way they're playing, right? It just has not looked good. It's clunky, and it starts at the defensive end. Now, Wiggins being out is a huge out for them. I think we realize even more now how much of a big out it is because he's probably their best lockdown defender on that team. As far as perimeter play, Draymond's a fantastic team defender, but as far as one-on-one, the three-point line, guarding ball handlers and whatnot, he's probably their best defender. Andre Iguodala formerly had that, but age has caught up to him. They lost 3 straight last week, and they got my week of the week to the Lakers, OKC, and Memphis. They then won 2 big games against Milwaukee. Okay, Giannis was out. They beat Phoenix, which is a pretty big win for them, and they lose to the Clippers, Atlanta, and Memphis. Probably, middle-tier teams in Atlanta. All 3 of them are real middle-tier teams. Memphis, I count as a middle-tier team because Morant's out and the way they've played hasn't been great, but just not good, bro. I don't know if you've seen many of their games. Wow. You look at their last 3 games for points given up. 134 to the Clippers. This is all regulation too. 127 to Atlanta and 133 for Memphis. Now, we know Golden State likes to play a high tempo, but they've prided themselves on being a high tempo team that actually will get down in the stance and guard you historically, right? That's what made them not the Phoenix Suns. When the Warriors, when I was there, when we were building up into that run and gun team, what set us apart was we're still going to guard you. Like, we're not going to play the Steve Nash Phoenix Suns style where we don't care if you get a quick 2. No, we're going to stop you from scoring, and we're going to come back and put a 3 in your eye with Steph or Clay. That's gone. It looks like it's gone right now, and they need to find it quickly, and I just don't know. Their depth of their roster probably doesn't help them to find that this late in the season. And, people will say, oh, well, in the playoffs, they'll turn it on, but something different about this season. You can talk about the punch with Draymond and Poole. You can talk about team chemistry. But to me, that defense of theirs, it's bottom of the league or bottom 10 of the league for a team that's supposed to be competing for a back-to-back championship isn't good enough, bro.
Yeah, Bogues. I mean, they're really, they're really struggling right now with just being consistent. And the Wiggins thing really hurts. And you don't know when you're going to have him back. And it's they're already sort of handcuffed as it was during the season of not really playing well, especially on the road. We all know that. But now it looks different. It looks weird. It looks out of sync. Second unit guys are just okay, and no one's really going to step up. And I think it's going to be a problem. And I think that, I don't know. Maybe we're sitting here in the playoffs and they turn it on. But I'll tell you what, like, that philosophy as it ages, as we get year in and year out, I think that just winning on just name and recognition, I think that's sort of gone. You can't just show up and win, especially in the playoffs, especially, with these teams, and the West is still pretty good, and they really haven't turned it on where, like, they've been great much this season. They're always just this up and down, especially the inability to win on the road. And, I don't know, they're not getting enough out of Kuminga. Clay's actually played at a really high level at times, so he's coming around from his injury. But losing Wiggins is just, I don't think they can win a series without him. And, who knows when he's coming back. I just think that that's going to be tough. I had them as my team of the week as well. And, I don't see it. I want to see it because, look, they're a fun team, especially when they got it rolling. I mean, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but, like, they're a fun-ass team to watch. And ball moves, shooting threes, running split action, guarding people, switching, all that. But, like, no Gary Payton, no Wiggins. Kuminga's inconsistent. It just, I don't know where it's going to come from. I just don't know how they're going to really persevere going forward. You rearrange these dynasty teams, like they were great because they could rearrange guys, they could package trades and rearrange the bench. It just seems like they're running out of moves now, and I'm not a doom and gloom guy, but this is sort of turning a corner where it's not looking great for them.
Yeah, I would agree. And they need to figure it out quickly. They don't have much time left. And it's just, the team that everyone thinks that they can, not everyone, but people think, they'll switch it on in the playoffs. And I'm sometimes you do think that when you see the game against Milwaukee or Phoenix, but just over the course of the regular season, their consistency just hasn't been there. They will flick a switch in the playoffs. I just don't think it's going to be enough. And I think that Wiggins out is the alarming one for me, that just shows defensively that it's not good. I did that stat earlier in the season where we spoke about their starting five defensively was top 5 in the league, and anyone else after their starting 5 was 30th in the league in defensive plus minus, right? So you take one of those out of the starting lineup in Wiggins, now you got to bring in one of those who was bottom 30. Bang. Like that, all of a sudden your top 5 defense goes to maybe 10, then your bench comes on and it's dead last. So they have some things to figure out. We won't get into the Wiggins stuff too much. There's been numerous rumors swirling. I believe a lot of false. There's all kinds of stuff. For those not familiar, he's out due to family reasons. So people are asking, well, how long can you be out due to family reasons? You eventually have to come back. There's rumors that he won't be back this season. So we wish him well. No one knows what he's going through. It could be, I'm not going to speculate. It could be anything. It could be, sickness. It could be a family member that's not well. Who knows? So I think people need to give him his respect. Yes, there is an argument to, if you're working a regular job, how long can you take off with this? I totally hear people, but unfortunately the league policy allows this. And especially with the push of mental health, you don't want to force guys back too soon with these things. So we wish him all the best, pro, and hopefully he's back on the court sooner rather than later. And I think we all can agree to stop with the rumors that are pretty glaring, that are out there online, pro, until something concrete comes out from the Warriors or Wiggins. I think people should just give him his respect and let him be and move on with it. Ja Morant, pro, he's entered counseling, a counseling program in Florida. So they've come out and at least been somewhat proactive. And there's been no announcement from the league that I've found, pro. I'm not sure if you've seen it, of how long the suspension is.
Yeah, I think they did. Isn't it 8 games? And he already served 5. I thought I read that a couple of days ago. I think Woj put it out that it was like 8 games, but because he was already out for 5, that he's only out for an additional 3. That's what I thought I read for sure.
Yeah, you're right. Suspended for 8 games by NBA for conduct detrimental to the league. So pretty lenient suspension, as we've discussed, but the fact that I guess he's been proactive, he's been on record saying he's messed up and he's going to try to better himself. I can respect that. Everyone makes mistakes. We have to allow him a chance to go and get the help and come back. Now, if he comes back and this happens months later or a year later, then he deserves everything that's coming to him. But it just so it's the fact that this has been something that's happened over the course of 2 or 3 months. He had 3 or 4 indiscretions with guns and just being silly. You hope he figures it out. But Memphis, pro, have put in a rule now that I always laugh when I read this in the media. Memphis are no longer staying in cities overnight when they go on the road. that's their fix. As if you can't be an idiot when you're at home in your own house in Memphis. But that's what they're trying to prevent any more stuff happening on the road. For those not familiar, every team does it differently. Some teams stay overnight. Some teams fly the night right after the game. There's theories as to why some teams do it. Some teams with known partiers coaches will purposely leave the night off. So you're playing the Knicks. They don't want guys staying in New York overnight. They'll go to the next city, which is sometimes Detroit, and guys are fuming. Some teams that know they don't have a lot of partiers and wild guys, it's recommended to stay the night and get your good night's sleep and fly in the morning. The sleep specialists all advise that. So every team does it differently, but Memphis trying to fix this by not staying overnight isn't going to accomplish a lot. You got to really make sure that you guys are tucked in at bed. If you want to send a trainer out and actually have them tucked in, that's probably a good fix. But I found that pretty comical, pro.
Yeah, it's usually the NBA MO, Bogues. Like, they just come up with this thing that like high school teams do. Instead of really pinpointing the problem, dealing with the problem, they just try to put a Band-Aid on it. Like, who cares? Like you said, they could get in any type of trouble in any type of city, home, on the road. they can get in trouble. What about the night before the game? Like when you fly in the night before, like
Exactly.
So what? Like I don't go to a strip club after the game. I go the night before. I mean, who cares? And look, the league tries to educate players, but the reprimands ain't big enough. They're not strong enough. The fines aren't big enough. The suspensions aren't big enough. Like I said in the last few weeks, you're just trying to protect the brand, the shield of the team, of the league. And very few players are above that in the history of the league. And these players don't understand how good they have it. And then when they're out, they're out. Look, John Morant's very far from getting out of this league. This is not looking good for him in the short term, but he's gonna play at some point, and not that people are gonna forget about it, but he's gonna be able to do whatever he wants as far as on the court. They're not gonna, God forbid if Xavier Tillman did this, or Kenneth Lofton Jr. or Zaire Williams, like they'd be out for 4 years. But like John Morant, he's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
But look, it is what it is. Like you said, young guy. That's why people are young and dumb. That he'll fit. Hopefully he's learned a little bit from it. I don't think he has to do the whole counseling thing. I believe that if he didn't get caught, he would have been doing this 20 more times. He would have spent $300,000 in a strip club. Like, I think he's taken this proactive approach because he got caught. So it's not like he finally figured out he's got a problem. That's just how it is. The problem is John Morant could afford to throw $50,000 in a strip club. The problem is these players who don't make this money, who do that, and they end up broke a month and a half, 6 months, 18 months, 2 years after they stop playing. Those are the guys you got to really worry about. John Morant, like I said, is going to make close to $1 billion when it's all said and done if he's healthy. So I'm glad I'm glad he got caught. I wish he got suspended longer. I wish it was a bigger hit so he could really figure it out. Hopefully he really figures it out, and this is not really much of a problem going forward. I don't care about the strip club thing. Those guys are going to do that, and it's not, it doesn't matter what type of player you are. Most likely 90% of them are going to hit strip clubs and party and doing all that. It's the pointing, hanging out with people who have guns that are, pointing laser pointers at opposing teams. That is no bueno. And that's gonna lead you into a world of hurt. I mean, look at like what happened. Look up what happened with the Indiana Pacers in the early '90s, early 2000s, late '90s, with all that gun violence they had. Guys getting shooting up things and guns going off and stuff like that. Jamal Tinsley, Steven Jackson, and those guys. It really.
You see Steven Jackson this week talking up like, oh man, what these young guys do these days is nothing to do with real G's.
Yeah.
You're just like, that's half the problem there. And it's a former teammate of mine, but that's half the problem there. You're glorifying this shit like you're a gangster. Like it boggles my mind. Yeah.
So look, I know we got a million things to go to. I'm not going to spend much more time on it. I'm just saying I'm glad this happened. I wish it was longer. I hope, with suspension and fine, because I really want it to sting. So going forward, look, do the strip club thing. You're not going to be a saint. All right. Do the strip club thing, party. That's fine. But keep it in moderation. But the gun thing, there's no reason for that. That's why people, have 2 or 3 security guards with them if they need to. Like, you could hire private security. You don't need all that. But going forward, look, I'm glad it happened. I'm glad he got caught. I'm glad no one got really that hurt except a 17-year-old kid that got his head kicked in at his house over a bad foul call. I'm glad that, I'm glad everything else is fine. No one got really seriously hurt. And going forward, hopefully he just sort of keeps it in moderation. And no one's asking him to be a saint. Do what you do. You're a young kid. You're going to explore, but just sort of keep it to a minimum, man.
Mm-hmm. I think we all agree we all made mistakes when we were young. Let's just hope he learns from this, and this is the last time we have to speak about him off the court, because he's a bona fide superstar, and he's going to be a superstar for a long time in the league. So Steph Curry, I like this. It's just a quick tidbit. Don't have to get into this too much, but talking shit to CP3, the cameras caught him after him and Steph went at it, caught Steph saying, it ain't 2014 anymore. They asked CP3 after the game about it. CP3 was doing his standard acting dumb. I don't know, it was 10 years ago. I'll explain it to everyone out there what he meant by that. Chris Paul used to try to, or did at times, bully Steph early in his career. Chris was very smart, knew the nuances of the game, where to get away with a grab or a foul. He was more physical than Steph. Steph was notably very skinny back then, had some injury history, and CP3 used to beat up on him. He used to get physical with him. There were also the commercials, State Farm commercials, where Steph was his little brother in the show, or his nephew or whatever it was, big dog, small dog. That's why Steph said that. Because Steph now, his body is in elite shape. He's very, very strong for his size now. Hasn't had a lot of injuries, really built up some base in his body. And I think CP was trying to be physical with him that night, and Steph shrugged him off like he wasn't there and put the ball in the hole and talked some shit back. That is the story. If for people wondering where this all came from, that is a story. And Steph knows it. Steph knows that as soon as Steph started having that number over CP3, guess who didn't get the call back to be in the State Farm commercials anymore, Pro? It's funny how that works. But just for everyone out there, a little bit of inside knowledge.
Yeah, Bogues, that's how it happens. Look, it all happens. Like young players, they get bullied by older vets that have more developed bodies, just sort of know all the little nuances until, you just got to be patient with it. And within a couple years, 2 or 3 years, I mean, it's almost impossible unless your strength coach is completely moronic, which maybe a couple are, but like, you're going to build a body, you're going to build confidence, you're going to be good, you're going to take those early hits, and then you'll be the guy bullying. And that's what Steph did. And, it's just one of those things, man. Like, CP does it to everybody, and, it's good to see. That's sort of like, I like to see that. It's not cheap shotting physically. It's not putting somebody in the hospital. It's not Twitter battles. It's like, sometimes talking trash is fine. I'm good with it. It's sort of banter during a game. And, look, all players go through it. They get bullied a little bit, and then they grow up and they go through wars, and they sort of develop their game. They develop their body, and now they're doing the punishing. And fucking Steph's been terrorizing the league for about a year, for about a decade now. So, it's pretty cool to see.
I love it. And Steph is quiet for the most part, soft-spoken. I agree with you. This is the kind of shit-talking you want to see. That's what the fans want to see. It builds up a little bit of animosity. It's kind of, akin to Jordan going through the Pistons, right? And that whole thing, how the Pistons walked off the floor and didn't shake hands and all that kind of shit. I like that. That's a respectable, healthy, big brother, little brother type bashing. And you like that in sports. You want that. And then the little brother grows up, and now he's like, okay, you can't push me around anymore. And that's what this was. And I liked it. I just found it funny that CP3, he knew exactly what he was talking about, just tried to play it dumb with the media, and thought that I would give some people some inside knowledge there. But that was good to see. Dame Lillard over the week was on a podcast and mentioned, just discussed the ring culture. He said that he doesn't enjoy what the NBA is becoming in reference to the ring culture. Albeit he's stuck in a place that he's never going to get a ring, Pro. So there is a bit of bias there. But I would agree with him. I think what we see today is predicated on all these people back in the day trying to slander superstars into saying, oh yeah, he averaged 30, but he doesn't have a ring. So then what happens? You have your Kevin Durant's of the world who say, you know what? I'm going to join a team that I never would have joined 10 years ago, and I'm going to get my ring. And then I'm going to tick that box and flip the bird of the world and say, what else do you have on me? So society and NBA culture has somewhat dictated these terms that players have then got smart. And what do we hear today, Pro? Oh, all these super teams is not good for the league. Well, you were the same talkback radio hosts and ESPN analysts that were pushing this shit for so long, whether you knew it or not, that it has become ring culture. And I don't like it. I think you need to respect players that are like a Dame Lillard is a generational talent. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. Respect their talent, and they're just on a team that's in a small market that can't get the big names, but they're still competitive enough. They're always kind of okay enough. They're never going to really be a championship team. They need a perfect run, and there's nothing wrong with that. Now, there is a difference, Pro, between that and being on a shitty team for 10 years of your career and just stat padding and never winning. Now that's not Dame's
conference final. I've been to a conference final.
Competitive years. CJ, they've gone to second round of the playoffs. They've conference final 1 year. So they've been good and they've been close. But there are players on some teams that will just put up massive numbers and be happy in a small market on a shitty team that never makes the playoffs. Okay, those guys, fair enough. They shouldn't be spoken about in the superstar echelon. But there's plenty of players in the NBA that had great careers that get. I mean, Charles Barkley's one of them. You know, he cops it more than anyone. He gives back as much as he takes, but the slide on him is, you know, where's your ring? It's like, well, you're still a fantastic player. They just didn't have enough. The Bulls were, you know, a three-headed monster at that point that were tough for anyone to beat. But I'm in agreement with Lillard. I don't think it's good, the ring culture. And I think it's slowly starting to turn a little bit just because people have realized, like, if we keep preaching this ring culture, you're going to have 4 teams, you know, that have a genuine shot to win it every season, that are 3 superstars teamed up, and then you're going to have the rest of the league who are happy with a first-round playoff berth, which is not a sustainable league, in my opinion, Pro. I don't know what your thoughts are.
Bogues, I think, first of all, I think Dame Lillard, take away Kevin Durant, like, playing on all the different teams and stuff like that. Like, I think those 2 guys are great spokesmen for the league as far as, like, like, just being real. I think those guys are real guys. Dame Lillard is one of the most real NBA superstars you're ever going to see. He's not, he is Hollywood, but he's not Hollywood. You know, he's got, you know, stardom. He's a superstar in the league. Like you said, Hall of Famer. And I agree, the whole ring chasing thing. But the thing is, if you try to, you're going to drive yourself nuts if you're trying to make everybody happy. Meaning, numbers versus rings versus this versus that. Like, you can't try to please everybody in this whole thing. At the end of the day, he's going to retire. He's going to be done playing. He's going to be sitting back, and he's got to be okay with, like, competing with what he did in the amount of time that he was relevant in basketball. And if he won a championship, if he did, I don't think you should be, I really don't think you should be judged on the championship thing. I think that if you want to be in the top 5 conversation, that's where more the ring thing comes in. I don't think that anyone's ever a lesser player if they didn't win a championship. And I think you just have to be okay with it. You have to compete in the time you're relevant and you're healthy, and you could really, you know, have that sort of that probably the high side of your career where you could really try to carry a team. You're never better in your career, that 5 or 6 year period. Sometimes it's 10 where you could really carry a team. And I think that Dame Lillard has done as much as you can do, a very Clyde Drexler-ish in the 90s, except Clyde went to a final. You know, he went to an NBA final where Dame didn't. But I think that Dame's done everything he's could. You know, he competed, he had different rosters, different coaches, and he does it the right way. And, like, I think that when it's his time to go, I think that he could sit back and be okay with how he approached the game, how he approached being a professional, how he competed, and how he represented the league, the team, himself, and his family the best he can. And if he wins the championship, he doesn't, it is what it is. And I think that people just try, especially these players that are really sensitive today, they try to make everybody happy. They try to make the fans happy, the Twitter trolls happy, the media happy, you know, all this. First of all, the NBA Hall of Fame, you could be 9-9 these days and get in the fucking thing. So a championship or no championship, it's not going to affect that. But I think that too many people really put too much of an emphasis. I think if you compete and you do it the right way and you give everything that you can and you put a city on your back, you're fine. Now, if you go 15 years and never make the playoffs or never win a playoff series, then I think we got to talk about where you stand in the league. But guys like Dominique Wilkins, guys like Charles Barkley, guys like Karl Malone, they put it all out there. And they never won a championship. They were really close at times. But what are you going to do? They didn't win a championship. At the end of the day, you should be 45 years old, be able to have as much money for 9 generations, happy with yourself, look yourself in the mirror and said, you know what? I did the best I can to compete. I did the best I could in the community. I did everything I could. It is what it is. I won a championship. I didn't win a championship. Be okay with it. Charles Barkley's got like 9 digits in his bank account. I don't think he gives a fuck, to be honest with you. It might bother him a little bit, but you got to move on because in the end, Bogues, nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck. Like, who cares? If you win a championship, you don't win a championship. That's all I got to say on that.
Agree. But let's celebrate great players on teams that don't win chips. That's all I think Dane's point was, and it'll stop people swinging to these super teams. All right, Michael Jordan selling up his stake in the Charlotte Hornets pro. Now, reportedly not selling up all of it. I think moving from the majority, he's going to keep a minority. There's a lot of different reasons why a lot of different reasons being put out as speculated. I'll give you a point of view from myself being an owner. I think he just doesn't want to spend that amount of time. When you're the majority owner of a team, I can see it with the Sydney Kings and what Paul Smith has to go through. It's a lot of time. You're dealing with corporates, with sponsors, with players, with coaches, with GMs, with this, with that. And, not to say MJ's doing the, strategizing about ticket sales. He'd have people doing it, but they report to him at the end of the day, right? So it takes a lot of time, and he probably just thought, you know what? Like, I don't need the money. I don't need all this. I don't enjoy it right now. I'd love to still be involved in a minority capacity. And that would be my reasoning why I think he's getting out. It makes total sense. The guy doesn't need to be there, and I think he wants to still be involved in the game in some capacity. And I think the minority ownership gives that to him, bro. I don't know if you've heard anything different, but that's kind of what I gather as to his reasons.
Bogues, I think he just wants to enjoy his life. It's not – look, and I don't think it's about quitting or doing any of that, but, like, I think, look, he's been there for a long time, and he hasn't had much success. And I think he's just tired of it. And plus, look, he wants to golf. He wants to enjoy life. He wants to do what he does. And I think he's like you said, he puts a lot of time in. He's there at most of the home games. He's involved, and it's not working. It's probably not fun. And, it's probably not as fun as it was. And look, you got to move on. And look, for what he bought it for, I forgot what he bought it for. If I'm not mistaken, 235 million or something like that. And I bet he could probably sell it for $2+ billion in that $1.5 to $2 billion. I bet. So look, the investment, whatever his share is, it's going to be good and he'll be fine. But I just think that, look, it had, it's hard. It's hard being a small market owner, and, it's hard in free agency. He had a couple of years where they were okay, but they just couldn't sustain it. And it's just a really difficult thing. And like you said, at that age, I think your time's most valuable commodity you have with yourself, your family. You want to be happy. Who wants to be getting their fucking brains beat in on 30-win seasons and 28-win seasons? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're like, dude, the guy's got like one of the sickest houses in
Exactly.
Florida. Like you ever see, you saw The Last Dance, you see what he's looking out at in this fucking back porch. He's looking out the fucking ocean. Like, why the fuck spend your time in Charlotte fucking getting your brains beat in? You could be down in fucking, Florida doing stuff and being happy and doing your thing. And look, he's an ambassador to the game. I know we're going to get into some things, but the guy's the best. Like, he's humble. He's a professional. He's humble with his whole stake in the game. And look, the ownership thing didn't go great, but it is what it is. Just move on, and he put a few bucks in his pocket, and he could sail out into the sunset.
Yep, exactly that. And probably just wants to free some time up at the end of the day. So you can't blame him for that, and he'll still be involved in some capacity. It'll be interesting to see who purchases that team. Hopefully someone local, so they can run it the way they see fit. And speaking of MJ, I caught up with some clips which I thought were very, very good. Two different ones. One from Jordan a number of years ago, and these are conversations regarding the GOAT, or the greatest of all time. And we've had these discussions, and we're probably both on the same page that the game changes and progresses in different ways. It's hard to compare the 50s with the 70s and the 2000s with the 2020s, and things change. And I just want to play two clips real quick of MJ kind of relaying his thoughts on the GOAT debates. Here that is.
First of all, you're never going to say who's the greatest of all time. To me, I think that's more for PR and more for selling stores and getting hype. Jack and Tiger never played against each other. They never played in the same tournament. They never played with the same equipment. They never played with the same, length of golf course. I never played against Will Chamberlain. I never played against, Jerry West. To now say that, one's greater than the other is being a little bit unfair. I think when you can see the similarities and you understand, this is one way you can judge the two. How much impact did each change or evolve the game? That's how people are judging certain things. I won 6 championships. Bill Russell won 11. Does that make Bill Russell better than me and make me better than him? No, because we play at different eras. So when you try to equate who's the greatest of all time, it's an unfair parallel. It's an unfair choice.
And that clip was regarding the GOAT debate after MJ had won or been part of the Bulls team that won 70 games. So right in the moment, you could have argued that he could have said, yeah, I think I'm up there with my record. That's probably something we'd see new age players say. And here's one other clip of more recently and post-retirement of Jordan on his thoughts on the GOAT debate.
Do you think that this accomplishment, combined with all your others, brought you over the Johnsons and Birds and Russells and Chamberlains and
No, because I think that's something that I really can't say can be established. Each one of us play in our different eras with different teams, with different levels of success. And to compare all of them and say one's better than the next, it's an unfair justice to the art or to the artists. Being that Magic Johnson, Wilt Chamberlain, all the guys before me were the artists of this game of basketball, and we've all learned from them, and we've improved the picture to a certain extent. And to say that one improvement is better than all of it, it's an unfair assessment.
I think that's enough said, Pro. I think the GOAT debate, whenever this is had on ESPN or people on social media, you just got to play one of those 2 clips, bro. And I think I love the way he was humble about it. He has every right to probably be arrogant about it and say, I'm the GOAT or I've got the track record, but he understands that equipment changes, rule changes, tempo of game, the 3-point line, the way the game's officiated in 2020 versus 2000, the hold and the grab, the hand check, all these things make huge differences to the game. Analytics today that put an emphasis on somewhat bad 3-point shots being better than good 2-point shots. So I love the Pro. I think whenever we get in these debates or someone wants to ask me about the GOAT, I'm going to play that clip.
Bogues, the thing about MJ that makes him great outside of what he did on the basketball court is, like, every time he speaks about the game, he respects the history of it. He studies the history of it. He knew what came before him, and he has respect for it. And he's very humbled. He's very humble when he speaks, and he's got humility when he speaks. And when people want to sort of throw himself into that debate, there's countless interviews and press conferences that question came up. And he always has history. He always has respect for the history of the game. And he never really mentions himself unless you could find it. Maybe he said it before. He's never really does that. And that's why I love that. It's not like, oh, I'm the best of all time. I'm the, whatever. He doesn't really, he knows. He doesn't have to talk about it. And when he speaks about the game, he's a smart dude when it comes to that. He doesn't just say stupid shit. And it's not fake. Like when you watch some certain players talk about stuff, it's already pre-recorded. It's fake. It's already scripted. With MJ, he just sort of spoke from the heart about it. And man, when he speaks, he's very well spoken with that, and he's very articulate in his points that he makes about the game, and and how he evaluates it, and how you should evaluate it, how you should look at it. But that, again, I think that's where today's players getting the difference between MJ and the players like that before, where those guys knew the history before it. I don't think the players today, not all of them, but I bet a majority of the players today really doesn't respect the history of the game as much. They always look in their own era, instead of looking at an era before and having respect for that. I think that we're losing that sort of grip on the game where people are disrespected in the past, and like it's never been done before. In the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, there was always a majority of players that had it. He knew the history of the game, respected the history of the game, and I think now that era of 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000s, well, probably 90s more than anything, is being disrespected and just sort of they played at a brutal pace of basketball, and it's nothing like the game today. And there are great things about the game today, but yeah, it's always great to hear MJ talk about the history of it because he's well versed in it.
Shit, the fact that he hasn't done much media post career, it just makes me want to sit and listen to him forever. Like the amount of stories this guy would have, and his life experiences, and just small things, big things, little things. I'd love to just have a 10-hour chat with him.
Yo, Bogues, like, so I've had extended experience being around the guy. Being with Grover, he was always around the gym early on, working out, staying in shape, playing a little bit. But I work in his camp and, in Santa Barbara. So what they do at this camp is they had 750 kids. They paid $750 and you get one thing signed to Michael Jordan. So like at the end of the week, MJ gets in this room, probably as big as an NBA locker room, maybe half that size. And they just like line up every player in camp and they go through this room, one door out, one door in, one door out, and he signs everything. And then they close the doors every 20, 30 minutes so he can rest a little bit. But being around him and talking to him about the history of the game and stories and, going against certain players and, the guy is ridiculous. And, I don't get weak in the knees for being around many people, billionaires, superstars. It doesn't really impact me. That guy, he's ridiculous, man. And talking to him about footwork or basketball or, like he's just that articulate and he's a great dude with that. As long as you're when you're just talking hoop with him, he'll talk hoop with you all day. But the problem is nobody can go 18 seconds without asking him for some shit. Like, what I'm saying? And that's, dude, when you do that,
no shit.
I've seen it. Dude, I've seen it for 5 years working this camp and being around the guy. Like, that guy will shut you off. I remember the first time I went up to him, I said, "Hey, MJ, is it all right if I talk, we have a conversation about footwork?" And he gave me those eyes that I've seen before. And like, he was going to fucking shut me off. He goes, "What, footwear?" And he gave me that look. I go, no. I don't give a fuck about that. I said, "Footwork." He goes, "Oh, yeah, let's do that." And like every day it was funny. Like he showed up like twice a day at camp. Showed up early in the morning and he showed up at night. So right before the night session starts, like when they were taking attendance at camp, I would go up to him on the court and he would walk me through all of his footwork. And that guy, I'm telling you, is a master at it. And it's like him and Kobe are very similar with that, but he was every little angle and everything explained. And this is where I got from Dr. J. I got this one from watching Elgin Baylor play. I got this one from this. And the guy is ridiculous. But man, he's a special dude, man. He's really good.
Agree. Big fan of the way he's gone about it, especially the last couple of years. Moving on, Dylan Brooks pushed and injured a cameraman. Mm-hmm. Did you see that, bro?
Yeah, I saw it last night.
It's like, why? I mean, this guy's becoming crazier and crazier by the minute. Look, I love the fact that he goes back at Draymond and Golden State. I think it's good theatrics. We spoke about that earlier with Steph and CP. But Memphis has gone from like the most likable team. Is this the biggest crash you've seen? Like Golden State went through it, but it took like Golden State went through when I was there to the most likable team for 2 or 3 years. And then when KD came, they were one of the most hated, right? It took time. Memphis has gone from the most likable to one of the most cringeworthy to follow in less than a year, really, pro. Like, it's just all the stuff they do off the floor, all the stuff on the floor, their front run, like it just, they're very, very hard for me to like. This Brooks thing, he claims it was an accident, but he gave him an extra shove for no reason, and his antics are continuing to be, just annoying to watch. There's no need for it. But yeah, the Grizzlies, man, I mean, what a fall from grace from being the public sweethearts to where they're at now.
Well, if it wasn't for Steven Adams and Jaren Jackson Jr., I would never watch the Memphis Grizzlies. Those two guys are my favorite, because they just sort of do things the right way, especially Steven Adams. But yeah, you're right. I mean, this team, I think it starts from like not doing anything yet and really already thinking they're arrived and having this attitude. Now it's good because, as you know, confidence is very important. If you don't have confidence, even if it's fake confidence, if you don't have that in the NBA, you're fucked. And, Brooks I think most of it's an act, to be honest with you, because he's not a very good basketball player. He's all right, but like, it's not like he's great at anything. He's a sort of a tough guy, and he does some things. He tries to play tough and bully people and stuff, but cheap shot artist, not too bad, but enough, right? And yeah, the whole cameraman thing and, you know, all this other stuff. I don't know who sent it to me, but I remember saying, like, he's got this problem with Draymond, but there's an interview when he was at Oregon, and he was saying, yeah, you know, I just want to be like the Draymond Green of my team, you know, like a glue guy, da-da-da, speaking like heavenly about fucking Draymond Green, and now, you know, sworn enemy. But look, I respected his toughness last year. It's getting to be, and I think that when you have a little bit of success in the league, that's probably the worst thing for you sometimes. Like, some people could really handle it well and be humble about it and just sort of keep working and keep your head down and work. And then some guys try to like capitalize too much off a little bit of success, because not a lot, but a little bit. And I think that that's what Brooks sort of gets into, but I don't condone that at all.
It's a dynasty, pro. What are you talking about? They're in a dynasty right now. You just haven't bought into it yet.
Yeah,
it's a dynasty.
Fucking Duck Dynasty. I don't know.
According to them, their words, bro. They're in a dynasty right now, so you got to respect their dynasty. Of, you know, they're going to scrape in to the playoffs with a lot of distraction. But Morant being back, at least he'll get some games under his belt. But anyway, if you're a Grizzlies fan, I apologize, but not a likable team. I don't enjoy watching them play whatsoever, and I don't think they're going to do shit this year's playoffs. Maybe second round at best, and I think that would be an accomplishment for them. What else do we have? Oh, pro, how about this? Ben Simmons and Clutch have parted ways mutually.
Oh, no, you got a bunch on this week.
You didn't catch that one, did you? Oh, got one. Yes, that's the report. Now you're making me second guess it. I'm good. It's correct. No, I second guessed it because I thought you see a lot of news. But anyway, now there's, on one hand, I'm wondering, do you think Clutch is jumping ship because Ben's brand's gone downhill, or do you think this is the one I hope. I hope Ben's finally said, you know what? Clutch isn't for me. I need to concentrate on myself, my mentals, my game, my free throws, and I'm getting away from this circus of Clutch and LeBron. I hope to God it's that one, pro. I really do, because I want him to do well. As an Australian, he's an Australian iconic basketballer. I want him to do well, but I have a funny feeling it's the latter, pro. I think Clutch is kind of like, I think we should both move on, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, because your brand isn't what it used to be, and you need to go to a smaller agency. What are your thoughts, bro?
It's interesting, Bogues. I don't know. I'll tell you what, him and John Morant have a little bit in common. Whoever's in his circle, he needs to fire every one of those motherfuckers, you know, and get back on some, like, dude, tell your brother. It's hard to do when it's your brother, I think. He's got 3 duffel bags of cash waiting for him at the house, but enough's enough. I don't know, Bogues. Like, I mean, it's such a big check for the next. Oh, they're going to be collecting that check anyway because they did the contract. Yeah, so I think his value is done on the league. Deal. To be honest, it's hard to come back from when, you know, unless you're going to come back as like a second unit player, whatever. I don't know why Clutch would really do it, because like they're collecting that check, whatever, and, you know, they're just chilling. They got 800 guys better than him on their rosters sheet. So it's like, it is what it is. It's not like they've got 5 guys and he's taking a spot for somebody else they could be getting. I don't think that they care. I think probably he did it. In my opinion, I think he did it. You know, because look, most NBA players are delusional, and sometimes it's good to be delusional a little bit. You know, you think you're way better than you are, and like it gives you that confidence to bust anybody's ass possible. But you got Ben Simmons type delusion, and it's everybody else's fault but you. And, you know, all this other shit that he fucked up in the last few years, he'll blame it on somebody else. And, you know, it goes back to like Nerlens Noel saying no to 90 million and then firing his agent out. Like, wait a minute, dude, you said no to 90, you know, or whatever it was. And I like Nerlens Noel a lot, but you can't blame your agent for doing that. Like, you know, you made that decision, you know. But for Ben, in my opinion, he's probably blaming the agent, this and that. If I'm him, anybody who's been hanging around with me the last 5 or 6 years, I'm telling them to take a fucking hike. And I need new, like I need people around me that are going to be in my best interest, and maybe people I don't know as much, and just like as far as who's taking care of my training and doing all this stuff, like people I don't know that like isn't gonna like baby me and isn't gonna be just people who know what they're doing and it's best for my career. I don't give a fuck who his agent is.
I think that's Brooklyn. I think the time for Ben is don't hire a personal trainer. There's no one doesn't.
I agree.
No one has more incentive in him doing well than Brooklyn. Work with their staff. Stay your ass in Brooklyn the off season. Have a 2-week break or a month break. Refresh mentally, or worst case, if you want to spend it overseas, they'll fly someone out. They'll fly 2 people out if you want. As you know, they'll fly a strength trainer and a development coach. Most of these teams have pretty good development coaches for the most part. Spend your time with the club, because at least they can be brutally honest. Like when you hire someone, this is the problem. Like you hire a personal trainer, they're going to push the envelope to an extent, but they're not going to step over that line with you because they're scared of the paycheck you're signing. So it's very, very hard for you to get honest feedback. This is for all celebrities, basketball players, athletes, footy players, whatever. It's hard to get that honest feedback when they're on your payroll, right? So it's human nature. They're gonna push you, but to an extent, they're not gonna say, you suck at this, you need to do this better. Like, man, what the hell are you doing? They're not gonna do that. So a club can do that more because they have an incentive for you to get better, and they're not gonna get fired. So there's a disconnect there. So I hope that's what he does. I hope he doesn't go and hire someone or go to one of these academy type workouts where we see him in the wife beater just getting up and down and balling. I think it just needs to naturally occur. But I liked what I saw when I read it because I think it's a good start for him in revamping his career. And now it's going to be up to him how he goes.
Dude, he needs a shooting coach and he needs a mental coach. Like if he's going to hire somebody like outside the team, he needs a sports psychologist that's going to work with him daily, and he needs a shooting coach. That's it. Don't dribble the ball one time. Don't work on your defense. Don't work on your ISO moves. Work on your shooting. That's it. Hire the best shooting coach on the planet that doesn't have over 1 million followers on Instagram. Just hire somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing and they can get into your head in a good way and challenge you and just teach you how to shoot. That's it. And not threes, just free throws. That's all you need to be able to make. You could shoot 11% from 3, make 75% of your free throws, and now you could be on the floor, and you're fine. Don't worry about the 3. The 3 is the most overrated shot to make in basketball when you're a player that has the ball in your hands a lot. Because if you're going to get to the free throw line, you're going to have opportunity. Yes, it's important to make a 3. Don't get me wrong. But the free throw, in my opinion, when you're a player that has high usage, is much more important. I'd rather shoot 85 from the line and 28 from the 3 than be able to shoot 42 from the 3 and 58 to 60 from the line. It makes no sense. That's on me.
I agree, but let's hope this is a step in the positive direction for Ben Simmons' career. Final one NBA-wise. Now, this is a kiss of death, in my opinion, of some sort, but according to a high-ranking source in Portland, Chauncey Billups' job is safe.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So as soon as, the reason why we laugh is as soon as you see a statement like this for no reason, like no one asked. No one's asked. But it's the fact that someone's putting this shit out there, someone's got their matches in the hand. It might not happen immediately, but there's discontent in that franchise, I assume, starting from one portion of scouts, of front office, assistant GM, I don't know, but this is how things start. This has been strategically leaked by someone, and it's a high-ranking source, but Chauncey Billups, who was doing a phenomenal job early in the season, is now, they're not winning so many games. They just lost to the Clippers as we speak. They're not playing well at all. They fell out of the playing realms as well, but as soon as you see that, I call that the kiss of death, the time the stopwatch has been started, unless something drastic happens and Chauncey comes back next season and they battle for a top 6, top 7 seed. He looks to be in some trouble,
Bogues,
interesting.
The media stuff that happens in this league, it's usually leaked out by somebody, by the agent of the coach, by front office, by somebody. It's weird how that sort of information train goes, right? And look, it's hard to sustain things. Like, they don't have a lot of talent on their team outside of, Dame, and, they've got a couple other players, Grant and some things, but like, it's tough. It's tough. But yeah, like you said, you did well early, but just out of the blue, I wasn't even thinking about Chauncey Billups' job. Like, I was thinking maybe a couple of months ago, by like next All-Star break, if he doesn't get it going, his seat's going to heat up a little bit, but it's weird that it just comes out all of a sudden, like right now, of all people. But
they should be better, though.
Yeah,
they should be better than they are. I mean, they're starting the lineup right now. Lillard and Simons are Lillard elite point guard. Simons is an up and coming guard. Nurkic is a solid center. Reddish at the power forward. Okay, maybe a mismatch there. Matisse is playing good basketball right now. Then they have Grant coming off the bench. Their bench isn't phenomenal, but I think they, Shaden Sharp isn't bad. Nassar Little isn't bad. They should be better than they are. They should be in the realm with, competing at least for a play-in. Like, you compare them to the Lakers, they should be in that mix. They're 13th right now at 31 and 39. They should be at least in, Utah Jazz at 34 and 36. They should be 10, 11 competitive for those spots. So there is some fairness there, but it's a bit early to be calling for Chauncey Billups' head, in my opinion. They've still got a lot of work to do, and to see how good he is of a coach when things get a bit better for him. College B-ball pro. We're going to get your thoughts on something to do with Bronny shortly. But did you see the notes about the transfer portals? You seen these numbers?
800 in the first 48 hours, and it's going to get up to probably of 2,000. It's going to be above 2,000.
Yeah, so I've only got it from the first day. The Transportal sets records on day one of a 60-day window, with 30% of teams were still playing at that point, pro. So they couldn't even officially put their transfer papers in. More than 170 players entered the college B-ball transfer portal before 7 p.m. Eastern on the first day it was open. That's 5% of players on teams not in the tournament have entered the portal in the first few hours it was open, which is just amazing. I mean, we've talked about it before, and a little bit of adversity and players want to jump ship. I mean, there's not you can't make it as easy as this. I was big on, it was unfair that you had to sit a year out, because I felt like there was people genuinely wanting to move for the right reasons. But now it's like every man and his dog. I only played 20 minutes this season. I should have played 30. I'm transferring, and I don't think that's right neither. So, but that's just an amazing number, and it's probably where we are as a society of, just being able to quit and change course whenever you want and be appeased to by parents, coaches, junior coaches, high school coaches, where that's just the normal. I don't even know if you can blame the kids to an extent, pro. I think you blame the adults in the room throughout their upbringing for allowing this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it starts with the parents, and it's funny. Like, there are a lot of players that I work with that their parents are just enablers, right? Then there's like I have a client that thinking about transferring in college, and the parents basically like, the fuck you are. You're staying the fuck where you are, and that's it. I don't want to fucking hear this transfer bullshit. You gave your word, and that's what you do, and it's just where we are as a society, Bogues, and with everybody going nuts and protesting and threatening, suing, and things like that. Like, the NCAA just bows down to it now. Talk about player empowerment and this and that and NIL, and there's a million things going on in this in college basketball that's just it makes your head spin. I think with the transfer thing, I don't mind if a player's going to transfer. If a player wants to transfer, let him transfer. Now, what I think that needs to happen is does things make sense? It doesn't make sense to allow a player to transfer and be automatically eligible right away if they're going to leave. Now, I think there should be rules with that. Like, they say, well, the adults get to leave whenever they want. Coaches get to change jobs, and they leave players behind. I think that if you put in two rules, I think a lot of this stuff will be better. You got to sit out a year, all right, for sure, on a transfer. Now, two rules will let you be eligible right away next year. If your coach gets fired or quits or goes somewhere else, you should be able to transfer with no problem. The second thing is if you have a sickness at home you could leave to transfer to a school at a bordering state of your hometown, for where your family is. If you have a family emergency, automatic eligible the next season, and that's fine. I just think that today we have such a delusion, and there's no adult in the room anymore. There's nobody really saying, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. You're transferring. If you're a mid-major player and you average more than 9.9 points a game, you're definitely transferring. That's why, if a guy, I would have a manager next to me as a head coach, this guy's got 9 points. I would sit that motherfucker down. I don't care if the last 38 minutes of a game, I would sit that motherfucker, because if he averages 10, he's gone. He's going to transfer. If you don't kiss a player's ass, they're going to transfer. And they just do it to do it. And it happens in the boys, it happens in the girls, it happens everywhere because there's no rules anymore. It's the Wild Wild West. Everybody's bowing down instead of saying, look, we want to give you as many rights as possible, for sure. But we can't just bow down and let you do whatever you want. And if things don't go your way, you just transfer. That's why you're seeing the 16th rated team beat a first rated team, and that's why you see teams like FDU, Fairleigh Dickinson out of New Jersey, beating, number one seeds, because it's hard to really sustain a roster anymore. It's free agency. You got a lot of these colleges that just recruit transfer portal. They don't recruit high school guys anymore. I'd say 30 to 40% of colleges only recruit transfer portals. That means high school guys and girls, it's hard to get anything done. Also, Bogues, over 25% of people in the transfer portal won't get a school next year. There's people transferring averaging 0.8 points a game. Where the fuck are you gonna go? Where the fuck are you gonna go? You're averaging 0.8 fucking points a game. Seriously, where the fuck are you gonna go? So, why don't you just stop playing tennis or something? Because you got no future in basketball. You got that dumb fuck that gave you a scholarship when you're averaging 0.8 points a fucking game. That would rather watch a porn with fucking Roseanne Barr in it than fucking play your ass, and you're gonna transfer somewhere else. Get the fuck out of here. And that's the problem. NAIA. What?
You can transfer your ass to an NAIA or NCAA.
Yeah, you know what NAIA? You know what NAIA stands for, Bogues, right? No academic information available.
That's actually a good one. I haven't heard that one before, which is pretty much true. They let any man and their dog in that league. Competitive league to the NCAA, for those not familiar, smaller kind of collegiate league with some different rules. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. And you got some news? Break down this Bronny thing, because I'm not familiar with it. You're kind of really in tune with what's happened there with his high school All-American ranking and whatnot. Yeah,
Bogues, it's interesting. Look, I mean, the McDonald's game has always been a shit show. Where this player was rated this and he gets to be in a McDonald's game or whatever. But it's an interesting deal. So coming into the year, throughout the year, Bronny was, I've seen Bronny a little bit. I think he's a good player. He can shoot. He's got decent size. He's nothing like his dad. He's not a superstar. I know, his dad's being, tweeting about he's better than some guys in the NBA. Whatever. It's a dad being a dad. But going into the McDonald's game within a month or two of the game, he wasn't rated all that high. I think ESPN had him at 35, and three other scouting services had him at 41, 61, 38. And, at the McDonald's, ratings. And the McDonald's game takes the top 24 players in the country in the senior class. Can only be a senior to be a McDonald's participant. And no one, then you started a month before, every media service talking about Bronny James, how he's big time, he's great, top 10 player, top whatever. So now he gets into the McDonald's game, and ESPN has him ranked, I think at the last time I've seen it, somebody's told me that he was ranked 9th in the scene. In a little context to that, he doesn't play in a strong league. And look, there's nothing against him. Look, you want to put him in because he's LeBron's son, go right ahead. It is what it is. It's nepotism goes on everywhere, anywhere. It doesn't hide. White, black, woman, man, Nepotism is nepotism.
Sorry to cut you off. It's outside of nepotism. It's the fact that his name will sell the game more, right? And
No doubt.
more marketing, more hype. Yeah,
No doubt. I got no problem with him being, but it is a little weird. That's not that weird to me. So he's 34 in one scouting service, 41 in another, 61 in another, and 38 in another, and he got to the McDonald's game. Look, that's
top
fine.
30, right? So 15 on each team or 12 on each team?
24, 12 in each team. So
12,
make the McDonald's game. So okay, so he's up plus or minus. ESPN's the main scouting service. Like that's where people usually get the ranking stuff. But here's the weird thing, Bogues. He doesn't play in a great league. All right, his team gets eliminated by a team that was just okay. He had by 10 points. The guy was second team all conference in his own conference. You're a McDonald's All-American. And like the big time league, the only real big time league, there's one like league that like you fly to all your games. It just joined the last couple years. I forgot, it's the NIBL or something like that. And they got a lot of big time schools that play in it. But like his league isn't that league. And he was second team all conference as a McDonald's All-American. That's like being first team all NBA in rated 43rd in the Atlantic Division in the NBA. That's exactly what it was. It was weird to me. I don't care about the McDonald's thing. You got to sell the game. It's LeBron's son. He's in, look, that's what happens when you're a superstar. You're a little entitled. You can get that stuff done. I'm okay with that. That's been happening for centuries. But the fact that you're a McDonald's All-American and you're second team all-league in your league was weird to me. That, like, either the coaches really don't like him in that league or I don't know. But I've never seen that happen before in the history of the McDonald's game. Then again, I could be talking out of my ass. I could be Kendrick Perkins all day. I don't know. I might be just making some shit up like Kendrick. But second team all conference in an okay conference and you're McDonald's All-American, that doesn't add up to me. So that's what I got.
Yeah, and it's fair enough. Like, just admit it. You want to sell more tickets. You want to get LeBron involved.
But,
LeBron, one tweet, you're going to have more viewers. So it makes sense from that aspect. But the fact that, somewhat not fair to the kids that deserve to be there.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, you took a spot from somebody that was rated higher than you. Again, it happens. But, like, that player might really need it to push wherever they're trying to go to school. Maybe they got like some decent schools, like maybe they got like lower tier Power Fives and he could play really well in that really high end school could offer him. It is what it is. I'm not going to be all like play the victim on this stuff for other people. It is what it is. I mean, he's rated high
if you want to hear about taking spots on teams, we'll talk about that a little later, Pro. But
let's do it. Let's do it.
This is just the tip of an iceberg. But let's get into our Aussie of the week, brought to you by Dabble. Dabble, a social betting experience where you can copy bets. Very simple. See a bet on your feed you like. Boom, hit that copy bet button, and it's on your account, and you've copied it. You can follow mine, or Andrew Bogut, all one word on the app. Jump into the banter channel, have a chat with other punters in whatever sport you like, mainly basketball for me. Go on and download the App Store, Dabble, all one word, dabble socially, and gamble responsibly. A big week this week. Most teams have played 4 games, so we'll do a check-in with the Aussies. Ben Simmons is still out injured. Nothing new there. Back. Dyson Daniels, still a rough going for him since he's been back from injury. He was 1.1.5 rebounds and 2.25 assists per game. He has worked his way into being kind of their defensive stopper for perimeter players. So his stats don't jump out, but he does have a pretty influential role on that team off the bench. Him and Alvarado are a bit of a menace when they put those two in the game together. So you can't just look at his numbers. Daly had 3 points in garbage time versus the Wizards. Patty Mills still DNP since March 9th. Hasn't played a game where he had that 23-point explosion. Hasn't seen the court since. Jock Landale, a better week, 6.7 points, 2.75 rebounds, 1.25 assists. So he's had a solid week. Giddy, another solid week as per normal. 14.75 points, 9.2 rebounds, 5.5 assists. Last week he had almost averaged a triple-double, so a bit of a down week there. Matisse Thybulle, probably his best week of the season. 10.5 points, 3.25 rebounds, and 2 steals a game, so solid outing for him in 4 games. Joe Ingles, 8.6 points, 4.3 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal, probably one of his better weeks as well. Jack White, no DMPs in the NBA, no minutes there, but he is averaging 19 and 10 in 12 games in the G League, 40% from 3. So he was a muck guy in the NBL at times where teams would dare him to shoot the 3. So you love to see him shooting at 40%, 2 for 5 from 3. So at volume as well per game, 2 for 5 per game, which is sensational for Grand Rapids Gold. Xavier Cooks, welcome to the NBA, my man. We've got another guy on our Aussies to watch. He had 2 rebounds in 6 minutes in garbage time for the Wizards. Fresh off a championship and fresh off the plane. They're wasting their time in the NBA. I think he was only in DC for 24 odd hours. It's a tough flight. That's the other side of the US from Australia, which is probably a 24, 25 hour flight with transiting. So good to see Xavier there. But the Aussie of the week, Josh Green. I'm giving it to Josh Green. He had a hell of a week. 17 points, 3.3 rebounds, 5 assists a game, 5 for 14 from 3. He's our only 2-time winner of Aussie of the week other than the great Josh Giddey. I doubt he's going to get Josh Giddey. We're running out of weeks, but good week for Josh Green nonetheless. Mav stole a few games with some injuries, so that's good to see. Pro, that's the Aussie watch there. Let's get into the NBL. Your Sydney Kings, Pro, champions. Yes, it was an interesting final series for many reasons. This one, the people that I spoke to within our organization, owners, the GM, even some players, this was a back-to-back chip, and a lot of people felt more of a relief than a celebration, Pro, in this series. And there's a lot of things. The pressure of us being number 1 all season. New Zealand were a formidable opponent. They pushed us to the brink. But it was interesting to hear a lot of people agree that I'm more relieved than I'm happy, but I'm more relieved right now that we just won it. So that was an interesting note. But I felt like New Zealand probably choked this series to an extent. That's not discrediting what they did, but I think we stole the series, Pro. We stole game 2 and shouldn't have won that game. When you look back, Xavier Cooks and Walton pretty much non-existent in those games. They played 6 odd minutes each or less. We're out with injury. We end up winning that with an amazing defensive performance, most notably by Justin Simon. And then game 5, we're down basically for 35 minutes of that game. And, we're down, I think it was 66 to 59 with 5 minutes left. Xavier goes to the free throw line, misses both, and we go on an 18-2 run to close game 5 out, Pro. So an amazing series. Credit to New Zealand. Both the game 2 and 4 sellout crowds. Game 3 and 5 for Sydney, sellout crowds at 18,000 for Sydney and 10,000 for New Zealand, both at capacity. Great for the league. It looked great on TV. I had people messaging me that, some companies I'm invested in, some people that are not sport people at all were texting me like, I watched the game. It was awesome. I loved it. I'm not a basketball fan, but I'm going to be a fan now. So that's what we want. That's what we want from these kind of series. We'll like I said, we'll take it. I know a lot of people who don't like myself for whatever reason, or our ownership group, or there was the anyone but Sydney hashtag. You're going to have to wait another year for that, unfortunately. So we have another championship to defend. We're back-to-back now, and our free agency starts in 10 days. We're going to figure that out along the way. We've lost a lot of our talent again. Xavier's gone now. Most likely our imports will get picked up somewhere else and make more money, and that's part of the game. So we got to regroup and try to bring as many guys back as we can, Pro. But, and best of luck to Xavier over there in Washington, Pro.
Bogues, do you get involved in the now they don't do any pitches or anything? You just sort of like talk to agents for signing players, right? It's not like the NBA where you got to sort of like get on a plane somewhere to like ownership group or front office or whatever to recruit somebody to come play for you guys. Like,
no,
how does that work? Yeah.
It's not as extravagant as that. Where we have to woo guys in the Hamptons, Pro. But yeah, look, we have calls. We're one of the most proactive ownership groups in the league, and I can confidently say that because I've spoke to numerous people in different clubs about how often they meet. We meet weekly at a minimum in when nothing's going on. So we have a weekly call no matter what, and then obviously around free agency and different things going on, that gets ramped up. We had a call last night. gone through our budget and what we're looking to spend next season, so we're familiar with that. And then our GM goes out there and does it, and then brings it back to us and said, "I've got this player for this. Do we want to do it?" And there's a lot that goes into our, you think the NBA salary caps are complicated. The NBL is just as bad. There's all these breakdowns, and there's exemptions for an Asian player. There's exemptions for a next star. There's an exemption for an indigenous player. It doesn't count on, they all don't count on your cap. Then you've got marquees. 2 marquees only count for $250K to your cap, and even if you pay him $800, marquee meaning an Australian star you've brought home from overseas. And then you've got the imports. There's a lot to take in. It's not as easy as, it's almost a Rubik's Cube of a financial spreadsheet figuring this thing out. But yeah, I mean, myself and Luke Longley are probably the basketball brains as far as we think this player is good. We think, we don't want to spend that much for him and all that kind of stuff. And with X leaving now, and we have a lot of cash free. Not that we wanted to, we'd rather have X back, but we have a lot of cash free. There's a few buyouts as well that we'll get back for X and maybe a few other players that might go overseas. So we're in a good spot and we like where we're at, but trying to rebuild this puzzle for a three-peat is going to be hard. And it's just one of those things in the NBL that, we're not the NBA and we're not EuroLeague. So if we have players perform well, they get poached by teams in Asia. Japan's coming knocking a big time pro. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Japan is spending big money. Taiwan people speak about because Dwight's over there, but Japan's the one that we're worried about because as a league, they can pay 2-3x what we can pay for Aussie superstars. So what they're doing is they like Australian talent because they're no nonsense, they're professional, they come in, they do their job, and they're happy to pay them $800,000-900,000 USD, which we just can't afford to pay. So in the current salary structure we have, you get 2 of those players, that's almost 80-90% of your cap, right? So you got to be very careful. But Japan's the one we're worried about. But I mean, back to back, we love it. Great for the league, and we'll see if we can go three-peat.
Bogues, you guys doing any type of parade, or what are you doing?
Nah, it doesn't go to those extent. I mean, we'll probably do a little bit, but the problem is everyone's already on a plane and gone. That's the brutalness of the NBL is most of our guys will pick up contracts for the end of seasons in Europe or Asia, and a few of them are on a plane already. X has gone to the NBA. So we had a bit of a celebration on Friday, and it's kind of similar to the NBA. Once the season ends, those planes are smoking and everyone's going to different cities. So we'll probably do a media bash around it over the next week. But it's just one of those things. It's, you know how you've been around playoff teams and whatnot. When it ends, that's it.
Oh,
it's
my
kind of
God.
It's scattered. So we'll try to promote it for corporates and try to get more people on board. But basketball's booming in Sydney. The Kings are, on everyone's minds basketball-wise, which is great to see. And to get 18,000 and sell out Kudos Bank Arena 2 games out of that final series is just great for basketball to see. And you watch that product on TV, that's an NBA-like arena that's sold out. And I think credit should be given, and albeit the fans that came out and everyone that supported it, it was great.
No, it's great, man. Congrats on the success of that. And that's tough, man. It's tough to win that like that anywhere. People think it's just the NBA. It's tough. I mean, doing it overseas is really tough. Like, because you're like you said, your rosters are volatile. Like, there's a lot of change and things that happen. And it's not like the NBA where you have these 5-year deals on a lot of players and you get to keep a lot of guys. I mean, it's tough. It's tough to keep that thing rolling. So, that's cool. Hopefully you could try to, get number 3, real soon. So that'll be awesome.
Thank you. All right. Now, a bit of a contentious subject over the last week here in Australia. I posted a tweet last week. I got word that the NBL 1 South, which is the women's minor league, I guess you'd call it for you Americans. It's the league under NBL 1, based in Victoria, has come out and they're in the process of about to approve a biological male to play in the women's league. So I posted out that news. The reason why I did it was because girls had reached out to me, people from the league had reached out to me saying, "Do you know about this?" And I said, "Well, no, because it's the first time I've heard about it." And the reason why I did it was the exact reaction that I got. They Basketball Victoria were trying to just play it in-house under the rug till it happens and then being like, well, it's already happened, too bad. And it's caused a bit of a shitstorm for them and everyone in the basketball community, and rightfully so. They deserve that. There was no transparency with it, in my opinion. And I just want to say, I've got nothing against people that are transgender, that want to you want to transition, you want to be, if you're a male and you want to transition to a female or vice versa, do what you got to do. I don't think you're allowed in women's spaces though. That's where I draw the line. I think that, bathrooms, women's sport, all that kind of stuff, no go for me. That's just my opinion on it, and I'm pretty staunch on it. I just think there's numerous reasons why I'm against it. But I'm not discriminatory in any way around, like, if you want to go to a cafe or a restaurant, hey, we don't accept your kind. No, that's not acceptable neither. So just make that clear. But it has been interesting, and I just think the conversation around this is very one-sided. It's very pro. A lot of people, no, everyone's for it. Well, that's not the case. The majority of girls in this league are not for it. Most of them are very scared to even utter that confidentially, as seen by some tweets that I put out from a source. Apparently Basketball Victoria found that source and threatened her. So I took down the tweets out of respect to her, because I said I would, if she got in trouble and wasn't comfortable, I would take it down. And then I reposted stuff in my own wording. But it's the athlete in question, apparently state level Victorian volleyballer, so super athletic. And I'm not blaming the athlete, and I don't think the athlete should receive any abuse and anything untoward from people. I think you need to go at the administrators and the people handling it. But that's what's happened in the last week. It's really blown up. There's a conversation that needs to be had, so much so that Basketball Victoria has lost the rights to determine what's going to happen. Basketball Australia, the country governing body, has overtaken it because it was handled so poorly from Basketball Victoria. And I guess they're going to have a decision in the next coming weeks, because the season starts on the 1st of April. But I just think that, I'm not going to get into this too much because the basketball podcast, we don't want to bore you with political stuff. I'm going to be doing a podcast at length about this later on in the week with a guest to really get into the pros and cons. But I really do think that women's sport in general could be at jeopardy long term if this continues. And people might say, it's just one person. Yes, in 2023, it's one person. 2024, it's 2 people. In 2030, it's 20 people. And then, you've got, biological males playing in female sports and dominating, because, whether you like it or not, males are, stronger and more athletic and faster for the most part. And it's really gonna change the dynamic of women's sport that we should be protecting for our young girls, pro.
Yeah, Bogues, the whole transgender thing doesn't really impact my world on a daily basis, because I don't have any friends or acquaintances that sort of are transgender. So I don't think about it a lot. I know it's a lot in the media. So I'm very accepting of everybody, like you just said. Like, same thing. I don't care, gay, transgender, bi, whatever you are, and that's fine. You live in the world, and that's what we do. The 2 things that I feel very strongly about is the same things you were talking about: bathrooms and sports. I don't think that men should. I don't care. If you're born a male, I don't think you should have any right to be in a women's bathroom. Just for safety, whatever you do, that's fine. Just go into the bathroom that you that's what you were born, male, female, that's what you do. And in sports, I don't care about, I know there's been articles about testosterone levels and this and that, and I just don't think there's any room for a male and female sports, or vice versa. I just think that, look, whatever you're born as.
That's the thing, pro. It doesn't happen vice versa. That's the elephant in the room. I've not heard of a female transitioning to male wanting to go and play in the NBA or the NBL. It doesn't happen. So, it's a tough one. And to your point on testosterone, my problem with this is the testosterone, there's leagues and governing bodies, pros referring to, is you need to be on hormone blockers or testosterone blockers. And potentially estrogen, female hormones, when you're transitioning. And there's a certain criteria that some of these governing bodies will have where your testosterone levels need to be per whatever the guidelines are, down to a certain level, right?
Yeah.
So theoretically, pro, I'm 7 foot tall, I'm 120 kilos, 260. I can go on these testosterone blockers for however long it takes me, 6 months, I'd assume. Get under those levels, and I can play WNBA next year. With my muscle mass, with my bone density as a fully grown man. That's where I have a problem with this. It's just like, and people say, it's not cut and dry. We got to take every case individually. Well, then you're discriminating against someone who's 7 foot, right? You're too big, even though you're under the threshold for testosterone. We're not going to let you in. And that's what was echoed with the NBL 1 women's. Someone asked that question, like, what if a 6'9", 100-kilo guy former guy wants to play in our league. Oh no, we wouldn't allow that because that's obviously could put our girls in jeopardy. Well, then you're discriminating. What's the cutoff? 6'8", 6'7"? What's the kilogram rating? Like, and that's where this gets murky, Pro. And they've really painted themselves into a corner. And one thing I've got to mention is there's 15, 16-year-old girls in this league as well.
Yeah.
So the age of consent laws, around sexual stuff, but I'd love to understand if a biological male is walking around in the female change room with their female penis out. Was that what you say these days? Female penis out in front of 15 and 16-year-old girls. That's a whole separate issue again, because you've got young girls in there that potentially could be, going to the police or court cases or whatnot,
No doubt. And then just think about it theoretically, right? Basketball player that is finishing up at like Utah State, right? He's a good player, not good enough to be play pro or make any type of money, but good, like 6'6", decent athlete, strong guy, what have you. No family, but really wants to play basketball and wants to make a living in basketball. Well, look, the max contract in the WNBA is $250, right? Women's basketball, you can make, the WNBA players play overseas during the wintertime. They make, depending on how good you are, you could make $600 to $1 million a year. So, if I'm a player, seriously, if I don't want to start a family or anything like that, I'm like, fuck it, let me just do this. I can go in Russia. Some fucking guy's gonna pay me. Some team's gonna pay me like $750, $800 to play, and then I'll go back in the WNBA, play, make $100,000 at least, or 75 to 100, and work my way up into a max player there. So within 3 years, I'll be making $1 million a year in basketball, kicking the shit out of everybody. I'm sure that may not happen, but who says it's not? It's weird.
It'll happen. It's a matter of when. That's the argument that activists will say, that's an extreme case. It's not going to happen. No one wants to just transition. For money, we see what people do for money. We see what people risk jail. Look what these NBA players did. We spoke about last week with the fraud scheme with the NBL Health Fund. That was for $210,000 or $130,000.
And by the way, half those people that fucked around with the dentist money still got fucked up teeth. So that's even more fucked up, but that's for another day. But yeah, you're right. But it's weird.
That's my point. That was over minuscule money. They risked 5 years in jail. People are going to transition to men to make money if they transition from male to female.
No doubt.
When they're really not, to make some money. Of course they are.
There will be at least 10 that would do it in the next 5 years, at least. You know how desperate basketball players are to stay in basketball? And now you have a chance to make real money because, like I said, WNBA players for the most part make $75,000, $100,000, whatever they make. They don't make much unless you're a max level deal player. You can go overseas and make really good money. So now you're talking about transitioning to a female because you want to put an extra $3 million in your pocket in the next 5 or 6 years. There's enough men basketball players that are marginal pro prospects have no chance to play in overseas. But if they play on the female side, can kick ass because all they got to do is take testosterone blockers for 6 months.
Leah Thomas is the example in the NCAA. 400th rank in the men's, transition to a woman. And he's just smashing records and first on every podium. So, look, we don't want to bore people too much about this political stuff,
sure.
But I think it is important for the sanctity of female basketball and girls basketball and protecting our women in their spaces. I'm a big advocate for that. And I think, further discussion needs to be had on both sides, and I'll continue that, but we won't get too much into it now. All right, useful or useless, Pro. This one was an interesting one. It's a historic one, but it was just, I guess, solidifies the Spurs aren't having a lot of success this season, so we'll give them a bit of love. But it is the San Antonio Spurs salary ranking each of the season they won the title, Pro. Would you happen to know where they genuinely would sit in each consistently with their salary ranking in the league each title year? So the title years were 99, 2003, 05, 07, and 14.
I didn't even look at the run sheet, so I don't even know. I'm going to guess they're championship level team, they're championship team, so I'm going to have to say they're in the top 5. So, yeah, let's just say 4.
Generally, yeah. So in 99, they were 7th.
Mm-hmm.
In 2003, they were 16th.
Mm-hmm.
In 2005, get this, Pro, 24th.
Wow.
In 2007, 8th, because they obviously had to pay Ginobili and whoever. And 2014, they were 19th.
Wow.
So it just solidifies how much of a juggernaut they've been in developing talent, in not overpaying for guys and panicking, keeping their core group together. It all helps having a guy like Tim Duncan in that squad that is selfless and took, probably could have went to some. Yeah, he took a bit of pay cuts. There was the Orlando Magic deal and all that as well.
Yep.
Remember, we could have left there. But pretty impressive for me. So useful or useless, bro?
Useful for sure. It just makes, again, I think teams forget about the importance of player evaluation and be able to draft well, be able to develop your talent once you get it and cultivate it, and then also take those diamonds in the rough and the people that are like sort of lost their way in the first couple of years in the NBA, bring them and basically rehabilitate them into serviceable NBA players. I think it's very, very useful in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, very useful. Very useful. Their bang for buck is the fact that they weren't even top 5 once. All right, 99, they were 7th. They had David Robinson and some rookies, which helped them. But in 2007, they were 8th, but 24th in 05 and 19th in 14. Well done. That's credit goes to RC Buford, who I just saw last week, funnily enough, was over here in Australia watching Chase win a championship. Great job to the Spurs. All right, next one. Kings reach 40 wins for the first time since 2006. And segue to this, someone posted a photo, which I found hilarious, this was my last phone case cover when the Kings made the playoffs. And it was a Nokia, as the Americans say, 3310 phone case with Mike Bibby on the actual case. That was in 2006. But anyway, Kings reached 40 wins for the first time since 2006, bro. Useful or useless?
Pretty useful, man. That's a pretty funny story, though. No, it's unbelievable, though, that they've gone that long, whatever. And
almost 20 years, man. Almost 20 years.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I will say definitely useful. Yeah,
useful, but obviously it's exclamation point is just on how bad they've been. the last 16 odd years, they've been horrendously bad. So good on the Sacramento Kings. Good to see them back. Great fan base. Ghost town of a city, as Pro says, the zombie apocalypse, but the Walking Dead. But they're lighting that beam every night. All right, next one. Drew Holiday, Pro, passes Jason Kidd all time for leaders in blocks for a point guard. Useful or useless?
I'm gonna have to say useful. I mean, that's pretty weird stat, but yeah, I'll say useful. Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Useful, box tick. Holiday's a beast defensively, steals blocks. I didn't realize Jay Kidd was the all-time leader though. That's impressive.
I did not know.
Position from the point guard. So a lot of rear contests, I'd assume.
Dude, that's the last guy I would think, athletically that would get up and get blocks. I would think like Westbrook or somebody would have it just because, athleticism and length and all that stuff. That's a little bit shocking to see that Jay Kidd was.
Especially when you hear the stories from when I was in Dallas. They said Jay Kidd's warm up that year he was in Dallas. Were you there? You weren't there yet, right?
No, I wasn't there yet. No.
Yeah, so they said Jay Kidd's warm up was in Dallas. They had like one of these external fiberglass hot tubs in the corner of like the recovery area. They said his warm up for games that final season in Dallas he was with was a bag of potato chips or Frito-Lays or Thins and a can of Coke. And he sat in the hot. While he sat in the hot tub, that was his warm up. There was none of this go out and shoot shit. There was like, nah, man, I'm gonna sit my ass on I'm almost 40. I'm sitting in this hot tub, warming up my bones. I'm gonna have a Coke and a packet of chips, and I'm gonna go bucket some people.
That is the most useful thing that you said in this segment in 3 years doing this show. I think that's useful. That warm up routine,
these warm up techniques we see, and this old vet is just like, nah, man, I'm going the contra. But that was good. Last one. The Golden State Warriors haven't won a road game since January 30. Pro, useful, useless.
Oh, that's pretty fucking useful, man. Their road record's ridiculous. What is it like? 7-28 or something like that. Like it's pretty bad.
I'm not sure what it's at right now.
I say useful for sure.
Very useful. They've been awful on the road, and generally a really good road team. Generally, historically, 7-29 on the road, Pro 29-7 at home. So usually they show up. They at least showed up historically for the big games. like this Memphis game leading up with Draymond's comments, I thought they're going to win this game because this is kind of when they lift up. But your generic road game in Orlando or like Charlotte, they're ones they would like historically lose because they're just like, we're sleepwalking through this shit. But they got some concerns, and they're not going to have home court throughout the playoffs, it's looking like. So some alarm bells there, Pro. Anyway, what do you have for this week in Fact or Fake News?
Bogues, I got one. I think we talked about, I don't know if we talked about it last week at all, but the NBA's going to think about, we're talking about with the CBA and trying to attach big season awards to percentage of games played. Do you think that they will, so the NBA will will put into rule that you have to play 80% or more in NBA games to get postseason awards? Fact or fake news?
Fact. They're gonna have to do something. Fact. They're gonna do something because they can hear the noise. I don't think it helps their ticket sales. I don't think it helps their corporate. I think people will be like, well, I'm sponsoring the team. Is LeBron going to play in every game, or Kevin Durant, or this or that? Or you guys going to, what's going on? Oh, I've got the front of your jersey, but is Steph going to be wearing it nightly, or is his backup going to be playing 30-odd games, right, as a starter? So I think there's some reason, a good reason for the NBA to do it, and I think it's going to, whether it happens this offseason or next, it's going to be fact at some point in the next couple of years.
I'll say it's fact too. I'll tell you what, that's one thing, one story that's really that's really like spread like wildfire. And now you got players like speaking out against it and speaking out with it, as far as like, the common worker has to show up and we just play basketball. You start seeing some whispers. I think that that's definitely going to be some, I wonder what the number is going to be. What are they going to, like, percentage wise of games? What are they going to make you play? That's the thing. That'll be interesting.
Well, historically, it was most bonuses
70.
are linked to 65. Most bonuses, like my defensive
70%,
player, my defensive team bonus I had in my contract, which I got 1 year, I got all second team to play 65. And I remember there was like 6 or 7 games left and I had to get 3 or 4. And I was like, you motherfuckers better not do me, because it was a pretty big bonus. I think it was like $1 million, right? So I'm like, I'm playing. And then Warriors were really good about it. They were like, look, even if we want to rest you the last game, we'll put you in for a minute and take you out, which is really respectable. Some teams, we know that the Boston Celtics, I think they fucked over Isaiah Thomas, didn't they, 1 year? He had a big bonus and they benched him, I think, for games played. But yeah, I think it's fact. It has to happen. We've spoken about it. The league's usually pretty good at reading the room, and I think they'll slide this in the CBA somehow.
Yeah, I think so too. I think too many people are talking about it. It's a really hot button topic, and I think that they gotta respond to it. They can't be soft with it. They gotta. I mean, not only media's talking about it, fans are talking about it. I think they're gonna have to definitely do something. My question, just again, be the number of games played, like. And how far are they going to go to make people happy on this? And it'll be an interesting deal. But I say it's fact as well.
Agree. All right, that wraps up another episode. Thanks everyone for joining us. A reminder, I'll be doing an in-depth pod about the NBL 1 women's stuff later on in the week with a special guest. Hopefully we can have an open topical discussion and come to the table with some solutions. And check out at Hoop Consultants for everything pro and at Bogues for all your podcast needs. Thanks for joining us. See you next week.
See you guys next week. Thank you.
Let's get rogue.